Welcome back, Warriors and Supporters. I am Brittany Summerville, VP of Operations for CRPS Warriors Foundation. Today we have episode 8 of CWF Presents CRPS/RSD is Real. Joining me, I have fellow volunteer and warrior.
Hello and welcome. My name is Kimberly Crgelka. I am a CRPS warrior and operations assistant with the CRPS Warriors Foundation.
We have with us today Kyle Hartfield from Inland Empire TMS, which is located in Marietta, California. Today we are going to cover what TMS is, what a session looks like, all about insurance coverage. We're going to get to know our resource, Kyle, a little bit and why he became a resource. Kyle is also the sponsor of 2 Warriors in the Route 66 Challenge, so we will discuss that as well. First, let's tackle the definition of TMS.
Transcranial magnetic stimulation can sound a bit intimidating if you're not sure what it is, but it is a non-invasive, symptom-free treatment that Kyle will tell us about that is life-saving.
And this treatment is FDA approved for a variety of conditions, which includes anxiety and depression, 2 things many warriors struggle with. So let's dive in. Kyle, thank you for taking the time out and joining us. How were you first introduced to TMS?
I was introduced to TMS by Dr. Kevin Murphy. I owned Inland Detox. It was a drug and alcohol treatment center in Temecula. And he came to visit me at my rehab, and we were sitting there talking, and what he presented me was PRTMS, personalized repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. And he presented it in such a way that it made so much sense. I imagined that there was a better way to help people, and I was looking for those modalities. In that search, I was introduced to Kevin Murphy, who told me that we could treat the brain. And by treating the brain, we would get better results from what we were doing. And me and Kevin, we sat for a long time and we talked about how we're all just fighting against our brains. I've been told that I got a chemical imbalance and all these things. So what he was telling me, it made sense and it resonated with me. And by treating the brain and taking the chatter out of the brain, we would have a higher success rate, which he was absolutely correct with.
I really like how you said that. In my own research, I've discovered how diverse the brain really can be, and the idea of treating the brain is very intriguing.
So Dr. Murphy has a specific type of TMS he does with certain protocols. Could you explain why that type of TMS is more beneficial than another type of TMS? I think I'm asking for the purpose that if someone that doesn't live near California and finds a clinic that offers TMS, what should they ask about the process or the protocol so that they know that it's the right one that they're visiting?
That's a wonderful question. That's actually a perfect question, especially for CRPS. First off, Dr. Murphy, PRTMS.com, has clinics nationwide.
Okay.
So coming to me isn't a problem, right? Even going to him in San Diego isn't a problem. There's 40 places nationwide. If that is not possible to make it to one of those locations, the questions that need to be asked, and this is going to be super important because TMS is a beneficial route for everybody. And I truly do believe that the world needs to be TMS, okay? But what are the protocols that you're using? What is the amplitude that you're using? Is going to be the best question to be asked. PRTMS is a lower dose of standard TMS. Standard TMS, 10 hertz. They're hitting you at 10 hertz. Now they'll turn down the amplitude as far as the percentage that they're going to give you of it. It's going to go to your motor threshold. It's going to go to your pain tolerance, right? But if your body can't handle this, you're never going to make it through a full round, 36, 40 sessions of TMS. And that's the most important part of TMS, is getting the full length of TMS, right? I did 40 sessions. I've done 155 sessions to date. If I did 20, the benefits would already be gone. I wouldn't live the life that I live today.
So this amplitude change is really the key. Now, you had mentioned that it goes kind of by your pain tolerance, and this is where turning that amplitude down really fits in. Would you be able to further explain what you mean by that, due to the fact that warriors are in so much pain to begin with, of what the difference looks like in a lower amplitude?
So the amplitude, and that's really where I know that Dr. Murphy is onto something specifically for CRPS, because the amplitude is so much lower than standard TMS, and the longevity will be sustainable for people, which is going to be the most important part. He turns down the dosing. He turns down, like I said, the amplitude to make it tolerable for people. And that's really why I love what I'm able to do, but what he has introduced to the world is because, I mean, he's treating autistic kids 4 years old, right?
Wow.
And watching an autistic child sit and tolerate the treatments, it's mind-blowing, but it's the most special thing that I've ever watched, and come back every single day. A perfect story, there was a child that came in here. Day one, his dad had to sit in the chair with him while we helped him get the TMS, right? Day two, same thing, but the dad wasn't holding him. The first day, he's like kind of constricting him so he's not able to wiggle and move. Day two, he's just sitting there and the kid's sitting on his lap and he's getting his treatment. Day three, he comes in and he sits in the chair all by himself. And we were all like, oh my goodness, like, don't overreact, because we don't want to freak this kid out. Just go with the flow. And he sat there and he got his treatment, 30 minutes, sat there all by himself. Day four, he ran in, jumped in the chair, and put his head up tall, like, I'm ready to get my treatment, right? And he successfully finished 40 treatments, was here every single day, was eager to get his treatments. And that's the true testament to turning that machine down. That's the most important part of this, actually, especially in the autistic children, is turning it down so it's not just comfortable for them, but it's manageable, and they actually enjoy it.
That's really wonderful to know, because CRPS affects all ages. So there are kids that have CRPS and are going through this. And so knowing that with the proper management of TMS at the right amplification, a child could get this treatment as well is really wonderful to know.
Yeah. And it's super important. And that's, again, like, I can't say enough about Murphy, because the man, like I said, he saved my life.
Can you tell me what a session of TMS is like?
30 minutes of relaxation would probably be my best way to put it. People mistake TMS for ECT, electroshock therapy. It's not what it is. There's videos on my channel of me doing a video while getting TMS, talking, eyes open, shooting a video. It's literally on your head, and it's a small pulse, a small tapping. Again, and that's why I told you the part about I was never going to get in that chair, because I was so personally intimidated, uninformed / ignorant about what TMS really was. It is 30 minutes of relaxation. You close your eyes, you receive the medicine / magic, and you just feel better. I'm not a doctor, right? And you want to talk the science behind it, I'm going to refer you to the doctors that know. I know the amount of people that this touches and helps, and I'm fortunate enough, I get to see it every single day.
It has to be truly amazing to be able to get to front row seat to see the benefits of something that's helped so many other people every day. I was kind of curious, as you had mentioned prior to mental health side of things, half of a warrior's battle is mental health related. There are studies that show that CRPS can actually change the structure of the brain, and many warriors also deal with medical PTSD. This happens for a variety of reasons. Warriors get mistreated, diagnosed. The severity of this condition makes it very difficult for people that are uninformed to take it seriously. Many warriors are told that they're crazy or their pain is all in their head. So when you're just looking for somebody to hear you and to help you in this much pain and you're constantly told these things, it can really have an effect and create that medical PTSD. And once that PTSD part is formed in the brain, it's really defeating for warriors. It can actually prevent them from wanting to participate in any treatment or new treatment because they just have this trigger that goes off in their mind of bing, doctor, bad experience, I don't want to go. So I guess I'm curious as to whether or not this could help some of those triggers and mechanisms for warriors so that they're able to get treatment.
What I can say in regards to the PTSD side of this is we track PTSD scores in general. I treat military veterans every single day here. I think we'll treat 7 today, but not even just veterans. Most people walking around suffer from PTSD.
So how do you track something like that, somebody's PTSD?
In PRTMS, we do brain scans. Every time you do a brain scan, which is every 5 treatments, you have to take your scales, is what we call it. And it's basically a 20, 30 question survey, right? And it's going off your anxiety, your depression, headaches, fatigue, PTSD. And there's a possibility of 26 scales that you can do, so we can track. And PTSD is so common in those scales that are added. It's not even funny. I would say 90% of the people that we treat here do take the PTSD. It's called the PCL5. Take that score on a weekly basis. And we watch that one fall off just like we do anxiety, just like we do depression. That one's super important to me. Like I said, we treat a lot of veterans, but I come from the addiction world. PTSD is so prevalent, it's not even funny. The traumatic episodes that happen in our lives, even though we tend to downplay them so that we can pretend to be okay, those are lasting effects.
That's amazing to know that the PTSD can fall off like the anxiety and the depression.
We see this a lot in the veterans, right? Especially the ones that have been prescribed pain medications. Okay. We see them taking less and less pain medications because they're not focused on the pain. And so they're just naturally skipping doses because they're not in pain. So they just won't take that dose. They're not in that mindset. And so it's Dr. Murphy was actually sharing a story with me the other day, and he got a call from a DC doctor saying, "What are you doing? My clients aren't calling in for refills." And he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, should I give them their refill? And he said, well, yeah, obviously if they're in pain, they need their meds, right? And he said, the doctor not calling them. And how long have we been dealing with this opiate epidemic, right? Where people are overtaking those medications and the shelf life of those opiates are getting shorter and shorter. With PRTMS, we're going the opposite direction, which is so cool, right?
So important.
And it goes to the PTSD factor in that equation, right? The brain is so complicated. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not the one to explain that or properly lay these cards on the table. All I can do is share my experience. And these are the things that I have personally experienced in my own life. I've experienced this one. It's kind of like the nerve, the bad tooth you have in your mouth, right? That is just painstaking and it just drives you nuts. Well, if that nerve is kind of numbed and you don't focus on it, you don't notice that it's there. It's kind of the same effect. I'd like to talk about side effects of TMS. I'm going to say, me personally, The side effects that I experienced from going through TMS, 155 something sessions, okay? 2 times, I had a very, very minor headache. So minor that I did mention it, and they said, Kyle, go take an aspirin. I said, okay, I could do that. By the time I got to the bottle, I didn't have a headache. So I never took an aspirin.
If pain treatment clinics across the country had one of these and were able to help people who had chronic pain to be able to get through it, what would be different?
So this leads to another topic that we kind of did touch on was opiate addiction. And I know that opiates have been prescribed.
Opiates are often prescribed for chronic pain conditions. And this is a hard subject. CRPS has no cure. So the pain medication really is just a Band-Aid, as in that it's treating the symptom. And the pain is so severe that it takes a lot to even touch that pain, just for some relief. Or they may be ineffective altogether.
I completely agree. And when you look it up, narcotics or opioids don't always work that effectively for nerve pain. I know they didn't work very well for me.
This is where looking at the pros and cons for your particular situation are very important for each warrior.
The risk that someone could become addicted. I know that my doctor had me on Tramadol to try and help with my CRPS pain, and it really wasn't effective. And thank goodness he ended up deciding to take me off of it. But I did have to go through some sort of slight withdrawal, and I would never want to go through that again.
And then this is where the stigma comes in. So when this happens, our only life jacket that we had to make our pain tolerable and manageable is being taken from us. So when we're told that our prescription can't get refilled, we're thinking, how much pain am I going to have to endure with the withdrawal and the CRPS pain? And that is just scary. So now these behaviors come out and we're labeled as addicts, when in reality it's truly remarkable to hear how many warriors hate taking medications, how many warriors have access to opiates and these substances, and they're not addicted. They're not abusing. Yeah, we offer them this option, and then they're just cast aside and put in this group of stigma. And this is so unfair, because what are our behaviors really exhibiting? It's fear of the extra pain off of this intolerable pain that's already unbelievable. And when you're prescribed, you're not thinking about this. You're thinking about, I can have less pain, okay, let's do it. And all of this is just so unfair to warriors. And this isn't just withdrawal of the body, it's withdrawal of the mind. This helps me, now I have to go without it. What am I supposed to do with this? How am I going to survive? How am I going to get through this day with this extra pain and unbelievable pain without this? And that right there can just be so loud.
My goodness. The noise in your brain coming off of things like that. The noise is insane. And this goes to Kevin Murphy's EEQ EEG, where he can show you why it's happening, the neurons in your brain that are firing the way they're firing, and why that noise is there. He gave me an analogy one time with my brain. He said, Kyle, you remember the radio station 102.7, right? KISS FM. I said, yeah, of course. He said, you're like 102.1. He's like, no, seriously. That's why you have all that noise in your brain. It's just static. You're not tuned into the right station. TMS that brain and take that noise out of that brain and give that person a fighting chance. TMS is FDA approved for depression, FDA approved for anxiety, FDA approved for OCD.
But it helps these other things.
Clearly, without a doubt, this is going to go right back to my personal testimony is yes, 1,000%. My life is so much different, so much better because of PRTMS and because I did that.
So you said insurance covers a certain number of sessions. So that means, that was one of my questions. Is this something that insurance covers? what qualifications do you have to hit for them to cover it? Do you know that? Is it dependent?
That's a wonderful question. Okay. So today, insurance just lowered the standard. Typically, so in the past, they wanted you to have failed 4 medications. Okay. This is, antidepressants basically is what they want you to have tried because FDA approved TMS mainly for depression. That is the easiest way to get somebody approved to do TMS. So they wanted you to have tried and failed several medications. They've wanted you to adjust those medications. They call it augmenting, right? Changing them, trying different doses, things of that nature. A psychiatrist has to do an assessment, make sure that you have tried, failed these medications, and then we submit that to the insurance companies for approval. They want you to have tried therapy, other simple things, nothing even to report. But those are really the qualifications to get insurance to pick up the bill for this. Recently, some of them have lowered it to 2 medications, which is wonderful. In my opinion, this should be frontline therapy. This should be before you try a medication. Let's get you TMS wholeheartedly. The science does actually back that as well. There are doctors, again, on my channel, I've interviewed several doctors that have been fighting for years to get TMS to be frontline therapy. Insurance is going to authorize 30 sessions. Okay. If you say you're on a Medicare policy, insurance is going to give you 30 sessions of TMS. My advice, use all 30. No point in leaving things behind. When we see people coming in for 10 sessions, 20 sessions, they've already done TMS. They've already been tuned up, right? And so this is more of a maintenance. If you're going to sit in that chair for the first time, 30 sessions. Depending on your insurance policy, so Medicare usually sets the rules for insurance company. 30 sessions is what they get. 36 is typically what like a Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Anthem, they're going to give you. It's 36, okay? Dr. Kevin Murphy's protocols are 40 sessions. Okay. So if I'm running a PRTMS protocol, typically I'm giving you 4 sessions. If you complete your 36, I'll give you the 4 sessions to get you to your 40 sessions. Round 1, we want to see. I want to see the brain fully tuned before you walk out of this. And I know that if I do that, we're going to have longer lasting results. The worst thing I see is people that come in here, they'll do 20 sessions and they feel amazing. They feel great. I get it. And they're like, I'm cured. And they leave. They don't come back. And then in 2 months, they're like, what happened? I said, you didn't finish your sessions is what happened. You finish your sessions and they're going to last longer, right?
So if you have PTSD, is that diagnosis something that would make it so insurance would cover TMS?
No.
Okay.
But if you're suffering from PTSD, you guarantee you have depression. If you have depression, TMS is covered by insurance. You have to have tried depression medications. You've had to have jumped through the hoops that insurance wants to see you jump through. But if you suffer, this is the easiest way to get authorized for TMS. If you've suffered from depression and you've failed 2 to 3 medications for depression, you're going to get authorized for TMS. Well, that's seriously my life, right? Is for so long I'm battling this demon that's in between my ears on a daily basis. And told by doctors, no, you got a chemical imbalance. No, it's this. No, you need that. And, 40 years I battled that way. And I mean, eventually you stop listening to the doctors and you try and come up with the best methods that you know to deal with what's between your ears. The problem is you're never going to run from that because it's never going to leave you. And so if you can treat it, which we can today, truly the best place to start. And unfortunately, they make it very hard to start there, but that should be the starting point for everybody.
I really liked when we spoke before, you had mentioned if you can't treat the person, treat the brain. And this really presents the option for warriors to address the most ignored part of CRPS, I feel, which is the anxiety, the depression, the PTSD that comes along with it. I'm really grateful to know that there's this option for warriors and to have learned so much more about it.
Thank you, Brittany, because bringing in the whole PTSD part of it is huge.
It's a big part, and I think that it's too often than not ignored, and it's not fair, and people aren't accountable for what they cause, and it's not okay. And it ultimately does prevent warriors from seeking treatment or even willing to try things, So if this could kind of help, and the harder part too is it's an automatic mechanism. Your brain's like a filing cabinet. It just puts like things where they go, and you have to be able to sift through it, and if we're not aware, it's hard to do it manually. I always said that everyone's an automatic car. They regulate their emotions all day by default, like breathing. For me, I'm a stick shift. I gotta, every emotion I feel, which is an insane amount, I have to manually go through. And if I don't, I might hurt myself or somebody else. You don't know, and if you have this that could potentially help that even a little, more warriors, I think, would be able to advocate and go and get treatment.
This treatment is life-saving. And I personally, I believe, I asked Doc, I said, how do we get in contact with Elon Musk, man? And launch this thing into space and just TMS the world, because everybody needs this. Mm-hmm. Everybody.
I like that too, of telling people to be honest, or a little more embellish the honesty of depression, because I think that warriors, I mean, from my personal experience, I didn't know my boyfriend had CRPS for almost 5 months into our relationship because he hid it that well. They don't like to show the vulnerability. You know what I mean? They're not, and I think they're afraid of what's going to happen to them if they are honest.
I think there's a part to this that, so it's a scale of 1 to 5, right? If I put down I'm a 5, that mentally I'm going to go to a 5. But if I just put a 1, I can continue to pretend I'm only a 1. And I only want to be a 1. I don't want to be a 5, Yeah. 5 is hard. 1, it's my mask, it's my band-aid. I can make it through my day if I believe and convince myself I'm only a 1. Right? So circling that 5 is hard to do. But circling the 5 is what's going to help us get better.
So how did this treatment help you personally?
A large part was the anxiety and the depression and trying to escape those mental health ailments and reaching for outside sources of how to deal with those. When I was treated with TMS, I realized how those issues that I had dealt with my whole life kind of just fell away. It wasn't like a light switch, right? It wasn't something that I just woke up like, oh, I'm no longer depressed or I'm no longer anxious. It was over time, right? And TMS is a daily process. It's baby steps. And eventually you look back and you're like, oh my goodness, I used to be like that. I can't believe I used to live that way, right? But it's not something that just happens overnight. But during the treatments, you do feel a little bit better every single day. And it was something that did click one day that was like, oh my goodness, like look how far I have come. Really, I think that's just the key in life is, right? We have to keep moving forward. I get it. I've been there. I've looked in that mirror every morning. Fake it till you make it, Kyle. You gotta get through the day. And that was 2 years ago. And I don't have to have those conversations with myself anymore. You can convince yourself, or you try and convince yourself, that you are okay, but at the end of the day, my masks and band-aids that I walked around with every single day, all you were doing is pretending. PRTMS took the pretending out of my life. PRTMS just made me okay. Not only okay, PRTMS made me great. And I don't have to walk around with those things. And that's just the beauty of it. I was sleeping basically an hour on, hour off, hour on through the night. PRTMS, I started sleeping through the night. What is happening? I just live a beautiful, blessed, truly blessed life. And that's my testimony of PRTMS, right?
The fact that I didn't know about this before is astonishing to me.
No one knows about it. I live in Temecula, okay? When I tell people I do TMS, they're like, you work at Temecula Middle School? I said, no. I promise. People don't know about TMS. It's been around for 30 years. It was first FDA approved in 2008 to treat depression.
Oh my gosh.
Why don't we know about it? It is life-saving. It is life-changing. Yes, there are non-responders to TMS. Yes, I do know somebody personally. I've sat with her. I've talked to her who did TMS, and it did make her CRPS flare. Okay? I want that to be known. That is something with that condition that you need to be mindful of. I know there's doctors that are working on specific protocols for CRPS. I know that for a fact. Like I said, I was so afraid to do it. I was so afraid to do it. Afraid is the wrong word. I wasn't going to do it.
Can you share with us how you were first introduced to CRPS?
My sister, she's technically my sister-in-law, but she's my sister. She walked off of a curb. She rolled her ankle and was diagnosed with RSD at the time, CRPS, through meeting Deb with CRPS and her telling me about CRPS. I literally realized that that's what my sister had and what she had been suffering from for a decade. I called her and I said, "Sis, is this you?" And she said, "Yeah, Kyle." And I was just blown away listening to Deb and then looking up online and hearing, I don't even like to say the name, but hearing the name that they call that, right?
Yep.
So I talked to her about it, and man, and all the memories, one thing with TMS, it clears your memory and your brains, and oh my goodness, right? All these memories are flashing of all these times my sister was in bed and my brother like, oh, I can't come out today. We can't, we got to cancel this. And me being like, dude, what the, and oh my, right. And it just like a flood, like, man, this poor woman has truly been suffering with this for so long, and something that's still so misunderstood and not just misunderstood, but lack of information on. So this circles back to Kyle. Why would you sponsor people in our mission? Man, if I can help one person, I know I can help two, right? Let's go. Let's go. Whatever we can do. Knowing what I know, knowing that some of you can't get out of bed, giving content for them to watch of people who know and are going through. What a beautiful, wonderful, needed message.
Thank you.
You want me to jump on a podcast and talk? Hey, yeah, let's go. I'm honored to be able to do this. I'm honored to be asked to do this. If you got 5 more that need sponsorships, call me. I'm game. My sister flew to Italy and received treatment in Italy and is doing very well after that. I know that people can't. Everyone's not doing that.
Right.
Everyone's not able to fly to Italy. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, I talk TMS. Never about my company. Never one time will you see on that channel, those channels, my company. Because everyone's not going to be able to come to my company. And I don't want you to feel that because you can't come to my company, you should not go get this life-saving therapy. This is bigger than us. And far too often, so guilty of it, we just are the center of our universe. But no, we are not. We are little specks, little grains of sand, you know? Yeah. And if I can help the next guy, that's my job. It is the best decision that I ever made. And I'm thankful that was forced to get in that chair and receive it, because it's the best thing that's ever happened in my life. Ever. And I'm blessed enough to sit here all day and get to talk to people that go through it every single day. Yesterday, I think we treated 30 people in this office. Oh. And I consider myself the hype man here. You know, you need a little positivity. You need some motivation to get through and get to your next session. Come talk to me. I'll be that guy, right?
We all need a little bit of a hype man.
Right? This is another reason that I love the mission too, is the movement. Getting them up and moving, right? Movement is so important in our body. And those are kind of the things that, another reason, part of my hype man job here, sunlight, exercise, diet, right? And I'm here to pitch those things to people and just share the importance of those things. Probably the people listening to this are like, Kyle, I can't get up. Well, I get it. I totally understand, right? There's things, we have technologies today. You can do yoga in your bed, you know, and that's so beneficial. People don't realize, when I went through TMS, I could not do 10 push-ups. I could not. But I started at 10 and I got my 10 done, you know. Eventually it was 30. Then it was 100. And this morning I woke up, I burned 500 calories in an hour working out, you know. Baby steps.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Right? And that's the thing, though. We got to start. We got to start. Don't beat yourself up if it's not 10 push-ups. I did. Didn't get me anywhere. Doesn't mean I'm not doing 100 a day. Right? Start. Get that one. Awesome job.
There's a path. You don't understand it. You're not supposed to understand it.
Right.
But it's your path, and he gave it to you for a reason.
That's right. Amen. And we gotta walk it the best we can. I've prayed for a lot of things in my life, and Garth Brooks has that song, I'm thankful for unanswered prayers, right? Mm-hmm. I love that song. But there's so many things that I have prayed for that I have today. Perception is one that I think about all the time. I prayed for that. Today, I perceive things in many ways, and I get to see them, you know, and then I have the choice to make the right one and go the right path that I get to take. So, yeah, I love the power of prayer. Through this journey, I know God has a purpose for me, and I know I'm alive for a reason. The only thing that makes sense to me is I'm alive to share this message.
I have a similar feeling of being given a mission and a purpose for life. I was diagnosed with CRPS 2 years ago, and there has to be a reason for the pain, for the suffering. I have multiple other conditions as well. And when Brittany reached out to me to start working with her with the podcast, I just had this feeling that this is part of it. Like, people need to hear about it. They need to hear your stories that might not have anything to do with CRPS, but it can help people with CRPS, because we go through this constant grieving circle that has no end with chronic pain, and something like TMS might be able to help people who can't see any light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. The only thing I would want to say is Like I have said it. I talk TMS on YouTube, on TikTok, Instagram. Everything I shoot is just me, right? It's just me talking. I don't do it for money. I do it to bring TMS to the forefront and help people understand that it is so beneficial and yes, clearly not understood. It's life-saving.
We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, ladies.
Kyle, thank you so much for taking the time again and sharing all that valuable information with us. Now we all know what TMS is and what we can expect out of a session, questions to ask if we find our own TMS clinic, and having that resource of the multiple clinics available throughout the United States from Dr. Murphy. That is prtms.com that you can look up to find a clinic in your local area. That link will be in the description of this episode. If you would like to support the podcast and the foundation, you can do so by texting CWF Podcast to 53555. Please join us again for our next episode, which will be released on the 15th. We will have Dr. Skylar Baku as our guest. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of CWF Presents CRPS/RSD is Real. Until next time.